Hey everyone, welcome back to another Unbiased Magic review. We have reached the end of the month, and I told you guys that every month I'll be reviewing a classic piece of magic. Today, I've got a special treat for you. We're going to be reviewing a piece from Edward Marlo, and we're actually going to be comparing it to another effect by Marcus Eddy. So you can find this in Edward Marlo's book called Early Marlo, and if you go to page 61, there is an effect there called Oddity, which is what we're going to be looking at today. And I'm going to be comparing that to Marcus Eddy's effect called Odd, or he called it One Deceptive Deck. And he put that out about 5 years ago. You can pick that up off of Penguin Magic for about $5. You can pick this book up off of eBay for about $12 and you'll get a whole book of magic. So it's something to think about. Essentially, the reason why I wanted to compare these was because I noticed that the Marcus Eddy effect was getting a lot of attention on Penguin this month, and it really, to me, seems like the exact same effect. So let's go over what the effect is exactly. So here's what the effect is. Spectator thinks of any card in the deck. This card turns out to have a different colored back from the rest of the deck. It's the classic invisible deck. Conditions are such that the spectator is asked to think of any card before the performer removes the deck. The deck is now removed, and the thinker is cautioned not to reveal their thought. The deck is spread face up. The spectator is now requested to look over the deck and remove the card that they are thinking of. The deck is picked up and shown to have backs of one color, but turning over the thought of card, it is shown that it has an entirely different back from the rest of the cards. So it is like the classic invisible deck effect. Now, the Marcus Eddy version, which he calls Odd, which unfortunately shares the exact same name and the exact same principle. Let's take a look at that trailer so you can see how similar it is.
What's up, everybody? My name is Marcus Eddy, and welcome to Odd. That stands for One Deceptive Deck. And with this deck, anyone can name any card in an entire deck, and that card will be the odd card. Let me just show you what I mean. I just want you to name any card in a deck of 52.
Jack of Spades.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You don't want to change your mind?
No.
You're not going to believe this. Check it out. You can name any one of these cards that you wanted to. I didn't influence you. I didn't tell you to pick the Jack of Spades. However, you picked the Jack of Spades. The crazy thing is, look, all these cards are blue, and you picked the only card in the deck with the red back. You actually named the Ace of Diamonds. In fact, I'll leave it right there, just like that. Look, all the other cards are red, but look, the Ace of Diamonds is the only card that has a...
So now that you've seen the trailer, you can see that it is exactly the same effect. And since I have both, I'm going to tell you guys the method is also exactly the same. Now, Marcus Eddy has added a few little details to Edward Marlo's original idea, although I don't know if it's made it any better. I honestly don't think it has improved the original effect at all. And I think it's a total lift. I like Marcus Eddy and I like his magic, especially his rubber band magic, but here I think that he just practically stole Edward Marlo's effect. I know that's a little controversial to say that out loud, but it really does seem like it, especially since he doesn't even credit Marlo anywhere, which is really crazy. So I'll tell you guys this, you may be wondering, so what does this entail? Is this a gimmick deck? And I'll tell you that it's not necessarily a gimmick deck, but it's a deck you're gonna have to put together on your own. There's no real gimmicks, it's just cards, but you'll have to put this together yourself at home, and you can put it together very quickly. But it's definitely something you cannot hand out to a spectator and let them examine it. They'll immediately find the secret. And in the Marlo version, there's not like there's any real sleights. I mean, the handling requires a very small amount of skill, and the Edward Marlo handling feels to me more carefree than the Marcus Eddy version, which is why I prefer the Edward Marlo effect. And it definitely is very convincing, the display, that it really is the only odd card in the deck. So I think that I would prefer more of that. I also like the idea that there's not any kind of pattern in the Edward Marlo Oddity version, whereas in Marcus Eddy's version there is a pattern to the cards, so it's possible somebody could pick up on that. And so I would highly recommend you guys check this out. It definitely plays very strong. It's very easy to perform, and it literally almost resets by itself. You'll learn it very quickly. The whole effect overall is only like 4 pages long, if that, and it's definitely worth your time to check out. Edward Marlo, at the end of the effect, he even goes over an idea of how you could kind of come up with something similar using rough and smooth, which is literally the invisible deck. But with this, it's kind of nice to have an option of doing an invisible deck without an invisible deck, just because, an invisible deck, your invisible deck will eventually wear out, and so then you have to buy another one, and a lot of people do like that. So this is a nice option for those that are looking for something that's similar, but they don't want to have to carry around an invisible deck or whatnot. So especially because there's literally like no sleight of hand here at all. So really, it's very, very simple. If you can do like a double undercut, then you can pretty much do it. This effect by Edward Marlo here. So I really do like it a lot. I think it's definitely worth it. And I don't know why Marcus Eddy did not credit Marlo. It's obvious that he literally lifted the effect from him. I mean, he even named it Odd, which is crazy. In the Marcus Eddy version that you'll get from Penguin, if you buy it for $5, what you'll get is you'll get instructions for how, again, to perform this in his way. And he does go over a way of gimmicking up your card box, so that way when you take the cards out of your pocket, the actual card box is either blue or red based on what card they name. So that way it really is another subtle convincer that all the cards are one color and the named card is another color. So that's maybe a little bonus that you guys might like about the Marcus Eddy version. His teaching is 26 minutes long. I think the teaching is really good, although I don't necessarily like the way that he does his display, the way he tries to convince them that all the cards are one color. And the main reason is because it looks kind of restricted, so it doesn't look as hands-off as the Marlo version. I think I just like the Marlo version better. It's just a little bit more. And so it looks a little more carefree. And so, you should really just look at it. There's so many good effects in this book. It's definitely worth picking up. In fact, I should just review a couple other effects from this book. But for now, I'm just going over this one for today. And the other things I will tell you guys is this, is that if you are interested in the plot, if you do like it, and if you do enjoy this, you should check out, there's a book by Peter Duffy called Card Compulsions. And in that, you could find an effect called Two Decks, but with a single thought, which is pretty much a variation of Marlowe's Oddity effect. And he does credit it, which is kind of nice. But in that effect, they use 2 decks, a red and a blue deck, and the spectator thinks of a card, and it looks like the card that they thought of has transposed between the decks. And that type of idea of a thought of card transposing between 2 different colored decks, there's a lot of effects like that out there. But the reason I mentioned the Peter Duffy version is because they're using the exact same principle, meaning that the method is exactly the same as Oddity, and it's exactly the same as the Marcus Eddy Odd effect. So if you do like the method, the principle that's being used, you may want to check out that effect by Peter Duffy that's called 2 decks but with a single thought. Somebody once told me also that Steve Mayhew put out an effect that uses the same principle. I don't have his manuscript, so I don't have that effect, but something else you may want to track down if you are interested in it. It's definitely something that you may want to check out. I think that this is a great principle, and I think it's very convincing to people, so definitely worth your time. So that is what I wanted to go over for this month's Classic Magic review, this effect by Marlo in Early Marlo. Again, I don't know why Marcus Eddy did not really credit Marlo, and it's really kind of suspicious how his effect has the exact same name. So anyway, I hope that you guys are having a good week and a good Halloween coming up here tomorrow, and stay tuned for some more Unbiased Magic reviews. If you have any questions about this or anything that I reviewed, please leave me a message, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next review.